Hey everyone, this week we're doing a quick rundown of the Mid-Atlantic, the Midwest. We're taking a look at the Triangle area in North Carolina. We're getting Greg Gurenlian on to talk about some of the top face-off men in the country. And we're going to look at a short-lived stay at national number one. And at the end of this show, we're going to talk about what's in store for next week's show. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that, but we're starting now. Before we get into this week's show, I want everybody to take a second, hit that subscribe button below. We are oh so close to hitting 100 subscribers, which means we can actually get a decent URL for this channel. So if everybody hits that subscribe button, we should get there, and we'll have a nice clean URL for next week, and I think that'll be fun. Plus, I think I'm going to do a nice giveaway. I got some ideas rolling around in my head, so I want to do a giveaway once we hit 100 subscribers on this channel. And also, make sure you hit that bell because that's going to let you know whenever new videos are posted. All right, I'm kicking off this week with a look at the national number one according to Inside Lacrosse. And their Under Armour Inside Lacrosse Top 25, they had moved McDonogh School to the national number one after McDonogh had defeated Culver Academy 12-11. It was a pretty impressive victory. McDonogh already had, I think that was their fourth win over a national ranked team, and I think all four of those were ranked in the top 12 whenever they had beat them at the time. So that kind of justified the Eagles' ranking as far as jumping up in the rankings. They actually supplanted the number one school, which was Salisbury School out of Connecticut, which has yet to start their season, so they hadn't lost to be deemed unworthy of that ranking yet. But they also jumped the Hill Academy, which is sitting at 6-0 at the time of this recording. So they jumped over two schools to hit that national number one ranking. And it looked pretty justified. Like I said, they had 4 wins over nationally ranked teams. It looked like everything was all good and all solid. And then Friday came. So what was the big deal about Friday? Well, the MIAA A Conference started their conference season. And as anybody who has followed the MIAA for as long as I have, or for a lot of people for longer, you know that the MIAA conference play is pretty much going to cause you to lose some hair, lose some sleep, and lose a little bit of sanity over the course of the season, because any given day, any given team is going to be able to pull off the upset victory. And that is exactly what happened on Friday night. St. Paul's and McDonogh went head-to-head in each team's conference opener. Well, considering McDonogh was the new national number one, St. Paul's wasn't even ranked in the top 25, it kind of seemed like a no-brainer which team was going to come out on top, right? Well, wrong. St. Paul's pulled off what I'm considering the upset of the week with a 12-9 victory. They got 4 goals from Logan Santos. They got 12 saves from goalie Jamie Grant, who's a Marquette commit, and they pulled off an upset and actually made a huge statement for where St. Paul stands as far as in the MIAA conference for the season. Now, this is one of those things, it's going to cause the guys at Inside Lacrosse probably to lose a little bit of sleep because they had already jumped over Salisbury School and Hill Academy. I'm going to guess that Salisbury School probably goes back to the number one ranking. It's going to be tough to see where McDonogh falls because they had dropped Culver Academy to number 4, which was McDonogh's old spot in the rankings before they had gone to number 1. But with St. Paul's out of the ranking, now you have a little bit of maneuvering you have to do because you got to consider the effects of on-field play take. But this does not really discount McDonogh from possibly being able to actually finish with a national number one ranking because of the way the MIAA conference is. These two teams could meet again, depending on how the playoff situation plays out this year, or if McDonogh ends up going undefeated for the rest of the conference play and they win the MIAA conference, you can kind of justify it and say, like, well, they kind of avenged that earlier season loss by winning the conference overall. So by no means don't shed any tears for the Eagles of McDonogh. They are going to be okay, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with them for the rest of the season. Now, I just want to kind of make a quick note. As of the time I'm recording this, it looks like Brendan Grimes, boys Latin star junior, is actually going to be out for the rest of the season. He missed the Lakers game against Brunswick School, which anybody who watched that game kind of could see that boys Latin was not firing on all cylinders. They were actually shut out, I think, probably until late in the third quarter, which does not happen often with the Lakers. And actually, I think, I'm not going to quote it here because I can't remember off the top of my head, but the last time they were shut out was in the 60s, back when it was the MSA conference. So I will definitely link that result down below. I'm going to have that on this week's notebook, which is released on Monday over on laxrecords.com. But that was the biggest results out of the Mid-Atlantic for this week. For now, we want to move over to the Midwest, and the Lax Records Midwest contributor, Michael Ward, he has been an extraordinarily busy man. He's been all over the country. He's visited teams in Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, where he lives. He's seen teams from Illinois and all those other states. So he has been around in an early part of the season, considering the Midwest has only been playing for at least a couple weeks. So for this week's episode, we want to kind of kick it over to Michael and let him tell us about some of the teams, some of the players that he's seen, and who's impressed so far.
I started the weekend in Michigan at Carmel, Forest Hill Central.
Mm-hmm.
That was on Saturday.
Yeah.
So on Saturday was Forest Hill Central, which is in Michigan, which is the runner-up in Division II in Michigan. They are loaded. They're loaded. It's a loaded team. They have a ton of talent. So it was there, or I was looking at going to see Brother Rice versus St. Ignatius.
Yeah.
Of Cleveland. So again, using Twitter, using this wonderful thing that, for a 50-year-old guy like me, all of a sudden I'm on social media. I put, which game should I go to? And the Carmel Forest Hills game got the most votes.
Yeah.
So I went there. Now, coincidentally, I live in Carmel, so I knew pretty much all the players.
Yeah.
And, and I knew a bunch of parents from Forest Hills. So got in the car, went up there, cold day, but game started off. Now I knew it would probably get a little chippy.
Yeah.
They played last year. A lot of kids know each other because a lot of kids play travel ball together. So there might've been a little talking, a little gamesmanship, but, it started out and it was a back and forth game. Wasn't the cleanest, wasn't the sharpest game. I think Forest Hills was coming off a game a couple days ago. Carmel played the night before. The overreaching thing that I've noticed in this week is teams aren't so sharp. It's early still.
Yeah,
like Michigan just started.
Yeah.
So and I think it was Carmel's fourth game, but one of those games was against Culver. So I mean that's just
right.
Like taking abuse. So it was a good game. Started off good. And then Tate Halleck, who is an All-American, midi from Forest Hill Central. He is going to Michigan State as a football player.
Mm-hmm.
So he's pretty athletic. I think
that tells you about all you need to know.
I think his two brothers or brother or father or uncle, they've all played football at Michigan State. It's a Michigan State family.
Yeah.
He sort of took over. Now, that's not to take away anything from Jackson Clay, who's Bryce Clay's brother.
Yeah.
Who, as you've mentioned before, he might be one of the top freshmen in the country at Michigan.
Yeah.
He's lightning fast. Well, his brother's like the same way.
Okay.
So he was dishing, dashing, running through people. It was a nice game. And then Tate Halleck scores 5 goals in the first half.
Yeah.
Let's say it devolved after there. It got chippy. It got ugly, but I like, it wasn't anything where I was like, clutching my pearls. I was just like, this is what happens. These are two tough teams fighting.
Right.
In the end, Carmel lost 19-10, which is a big score. I mean, this isn't like a pushover. Like Carmel's no pushover.
Right.
I mean, they're gonna beat up on some people.
Yeah.
For that score was an eye opener because I've put Forest Hills in my personal ranking.
Yeah.
Forest Hills is the top 3 school in Michigan.
Yeah.
Regardless, up until that point, I was saying it could be Brother Rice, it could be Detroit Catholic Central, it could be Forest Hills, maybe East Grand Rapids, Rockford, whatever. But it was those 3. At the same time, when I was watching Carmel, Brother Rice was throttling St. Ignatius of Cleveland, who was the state runner-up there last year, who some people thought would be the best team in Ohio this year.
Yeah.
Brother Rice beat them 18-8. And that was their first game.
Yeah, that was a big score.
Big score. So now I have to sit there and think, okay, is Brother Rice that good? Is St. Ignatius having a down year? These are all the things when you have interstate play and you talk to teams and you talk to coaches and you talk to players and you hear this and that. So that brings me to my next game, which in the Midwest, it's probably one of the biggest games you could see.
Yeah.
Brother Rice, Detroit Catholic Central. There are a few heavyweight games. Loyola New Trier, Brother Rice, Catholic Central. Depending on where you are in Ohio, there's they could have 4 different big ones each year. It might change. I think there's going to be. Moeller, Xavier's a big one. I think the state championship big one. But when you think the big ones, New Trier, Loyola, Brother Rice, Catholic Central.
Yeah.
So I went there. Now, for people who don't know, Brother Rice has won 14 state championships in a row. They've won 24 out of the last 26. Last year, they did not win the state championship.
Yeah,
they lost.
That 14 was before last year.
Right, before last year. So coming into this game, Detroit Catholic Central was the defending champion. Brother Rice was the runner-up this year.
Yeah.
So that added to the storyline. Now, I kept thinking back, was the 18-8 over St. Ignatius, was that a statement? Were they coming out letting everyone know?
Right.
Well, I can say now I think it was a statement because Brother Rice came out, and it's not like Catholic Central is loaded too. I mean, that field was loaded with college players. Yeah. I mean, loaded. But it just seemed like it looked like a boys and men's situation. It just seemed like, I don't know if it became the perception. It just seemed like the Brother Rice people were bigger and faster and just got to everything. Yeah. Now, mind you, the Catholic Central goalie, Johnny Shea, made 15 saves. Yeah. He only played for the third quarter. Yeah. Brother Rice scored 16 goals. He made 15 saves. He made 4 saves in the first 3 minutes.
Yeah. Wow. That's
like, and not just like, this is a piece of, bubble gum getting thrown at you. Low to high missiles, high to low. Like I was writing down in the first 3 minutes, this kid's the player of the game. Yeah. I'm like, but then it just kept coming. It just kept coming, and they finally broke it down. Justin Glad, who he is going D1. I forgot where I left all my notes in the press box up there because it did get really cold. He's a Division I player. He scored 6 goals. Yeah. He's a beast. Yeah. I worry what they're going to do to other teams. If they play like that, I mean, I don't know if they're always going to be, but I'm sure Coach Chala will keep them that fired up.
We're going to kind of wrap up our tour of the country by talking with Damian Hall. He's the editor and founder of TriangleLax.com. He really covers the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area of the state. So he's going to talk about a lot of the teams, players, and games that he's seen that have been notable so far this season. So let's kick it over to Damian.
What's up, everyone? This is Damian Hall from Triangle Lax. Want to give a thanks to Mike and Lax Records for giving us the opportunity to talk about the lacrosse world here in the Triangle area of North Carolina. For those of you not familiar, that area kind of consists of Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. For those of you who may know the universities a little better, UNC, Duke, and NC State. I run a website called Triangle Lax that covers the area as far as high school is concerned. So far in 2019, well, we haven't seen too much that we haven't expected. Middle Creek continues to be one of our best teams in the area, solidifying their hold of one of the toughest conferences. We call it the SWAC here, with a convincing win over rival Apex. At the beginning of the year, we had Apex slated as our number 1, but Middle Creek seems to have really dominated so far this year, only losing to a team out of Georgia in overtime. We've also got Cardinal Gibbons in our area, a perennial power here that makes waves up and down the East Coast with probably one of the toughest schedules that you'll find in high school lacrosse in North Carolina. They do a great job of scheduling very tough teams throughout their year and are always one of the top teams. Those two teams, Cardinal Gibbons and Middle Creek, have been on a collision course the last 2 years to meet in the state semifinals, and it seems like that might be going that way again. Other than that, in the 3A level, our small school division, East Chapel Hill seems to be reasserting its dominance in the East and looking to make another appearance. However, crosstown rival Chapel Hill has really stepped up this year and won some pivotal games and has some very good players and some very good positions. Those two teams will cross paths here in the next couple of weeks, and it'll be very interesting to see how that shakes out. Other teams to be of note in North Carolina in general, now I'm going to step outside my expertise here, but I'm going to talk about the state in general as well. Out on the coast, we have Hoggard. Hoggard is always one of the better teams in what we consider our eastern half of the region and usually ends up in the quarterfinal level. They continue their dominance of all the coastal teams and even made a comeback victory of one of our area's top teams, Wakefield. They are currently ranked in the top 5 in our bracket, and Hoggard was able to come back and win against them early in the season. Down in the southern part of the state, we have 2 of the best teams in the state, and those teams are Lake Norman and Weddington. Both of these teams have been on a tear for the last 2 seasons. Weddington has been undefeated in the state and won the last 2 state championships in our small school division and actually topped Lake Norman earlier this year in what was, from what all accounts I've seen, an unbelievable battle. It'll be very interesting to see if anyone else can really step up and challenge them in that division. Going from the central and the western part of the states, we have some of our normal powers. We have Northwest Guilford in the Greensboro area. They are still on the path to be one of the better teams in the West. And in the private school divisions, it seems like Christ School is really just setting itself apart from everyone else. They have been just really dismantling a lot of teams this year, not just in North Carolina, but playing a pretty tough out-of-state schedule as well. They have a couple big-time D1 commits. It'll be very interesting to see what else happens there. That pretty much wraps it up here for the Triangle in specific and North Carolina overall. Appreciate Mike giving us an opportunity to talk about our little section of the lacrosse world here. We're a big fan of what he does there and are very excited about some expansion to his world as things move on. So thanks again, Mike, and hope you all have a great rest of your season, and we will see you soon.
All right, so I thought we'd finish off this week by taking a look at some face-off specialists. And who better to talk about the face-off than the beast himself? That's right, we're going to have Greg Gurenlian on this week to talk about some of the best face-off men in high school this season. He's going to tell us a little bit about who he's seen. He's coached a number of these guys with the Faceoff Academy, and I was lucky enough to have him on episode 58 of the Around the Crease podcast. If you want to hear his entire interview, we did about 20-25 minutes on last week's show. I'm going to have that link down below, so you can definitely check that out because it was super interesting. We covered a lot of topics, including his new Weapon X face-off head. But for now, let's look who he thinks are some of the top face-off men in the nation. Who are like 5 or so kids that you think are coming up that have the potential to be the special? I'm not going to say another Trevor Baptiste because I'm sure those guys don't come around very often.
Yeah,
but
nor should they try to be.
Yeah.
No, I can tell you out of the 2019s, Gavin Ty, as you know, Tyler Sandoval, who's going to Princeton, Connor Calderon is going to Maryland, Eric Pacheco is going to Loyola next year, Angelo Petrakis is going to Cornell, Matt Gunty down in the DMV area, he's going to Brown, Tegan Boltman, I think Tegan's a 2020. But yeah, and then the younger Ginder, Kobe Ginder, he's a 2020. Ball is going to Yale, he's a 2020. So I mean, but out of that 2019 group, those are some of the top names off the top of my head. Yeah. That I would say are going to be immediate impact guys at the schools they go to.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for this week. But I did promise that I was going to make an announcement. For the April 8th show, I want to do Best Plays of the Year. Now, I know that some of the areas of the country, like the Northeast, have yet to get started in their season, and some other teams are only maybe a week into it. So don't worry, I'm definitely going to be doing this again later in the year. But considering states like Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, a lot of other areas of the country have already been playing for a number of weeks, I wanted to kind of give them a moment to show us what they got. The viral sensation of Ryan Siracusa kind of inspired me to do this because I know there's way more plays out there and I want you to show them to me. So how do you get them to me? Send me an email with a link to your video or a Dropbox invitation, however you want to get it to me, at stats@laxrecords.com. Again, that was stats@laxrecords.com, and I'll definitely be linking that below. I'm going to choose some of the best. I'm going to include them on next week's show. And depending on how many I get, we may do this as a regular segment each week because hopefully it'll be too many that I can include in one week's show. But I'm really excited about next week and I can't wait to see what you got. All right, now that is really it for this week's show. So let me ask you one thing. If you enjoyed this show, please hit that like button below and definitely hit that subscribe button. Again, I'm probably going to do a giveaway once we hit 100 subscribers. And also, I want to hear what you think. What do you think? We're about 6 episodes into this now. I'd really love to hear your feedback, your comments. What can we do better to improve? What would you like to see? Leave some comments down below. Let me know how I'm doing, what we can do to improve, or just tell me how fantastic and wonderful the show is so far. Whatever you want to leave, just make it constructive. Can't wait to see you guys again next week.